Hey everyone, welcome back to the How to Life podcast. This is the podcast that helps you learn how to maneuver through adulthood with grace and knowledge. I am Dr. Laura Jaggett, your host, and today you are listening to episode 42. The purpose of my brand, How to Life, is to help take the fear out of adulting, and for many, one of the bigger fears is, what am I going to do with my life? That's okay. It was a fear for me too when I was younger. I really didn't know what I was going to do, and graduation was looming. But it was a chance suggestion that got me pointed in a direction towards what would end up being my career. So I've decided that I'll make a series of What Am I Going to Do with My Life podcasts that offer some suggestions as well as information on how to look into it further. Today's going to be another one of those episodes in this series. I am joined by Carolina Albano, who is the co-host of Build Perspectives, a podcast that shares insider knowledge to build connections and community in the building materials industry. There are so many potential jobs in the construction industry. Carolina is going to tell you all about it and, of course, give you links to where you can learn more. Hi, good morning, Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me today on my podcast, How to Life.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. I'm excited to hear the information you have to share, and I'm going to have you just introduce yourself and tell the audience about you and what you do.
Thank you. So my name is Carolina Albano, as you said. I went to school to be a mechanical engineer a long time ago. And then, life happens, which is why we're here. So today I am the co-host of a podcast called Build Perspectives, which is a kind of a double meaning. It's about talking about topics that are not really being talked about in the building industry. So building perspectives in kind of two different ways. And I also, at the moment, I work at Fireclay Tile, promoting their tile in the commercial arena in Southern California.
This podcast is going to offer some suggestions on what one can do with their life. I mean, when I was a senior in college, that question faced me. I put it off until senior year, and then finally it hit me, my God, what am I going to do with my life? And my mother actually made the suggestion, why don't you be a chiropractor? And that was something that I had not even considered. I had had a great experience years before with it, but I never thought about being one. And that suggestion sparked something within me, and I did become a chiropractor. So I would love this conversation to perhaps spark something in someone else who is wondering what they could possibly do with their lives. So Carolina, why don't you tell us a little bit about this industry?
So the construction industry offers so much because literally you can be a marketing major and work as a brand developer, even social media manager. You can be in sales, in all kinds of sales, inside sales, outside sales, even specialized technical sales. So you could have an advanced degree or you can have no degree, actually. You could be in the trades. You can apprentice under a builder or a subcontractor and learn how to lay tile on a floor or hang siding on a wall or even frame a house. There's just so many choices for people of all genders and all education levels to get involved. So you can start early in your career, or you can even make a career change later to something different.
What do you like about this industry? You obviously like it. You do a podcast about it. Tell us what you find fascinating.
The reason that I started the podcast is because I had this friend of mine who lived on the other side of the country. And every time we got together, we always would have these interesting conversations. We both observed what the things that were going on in our industry, in our neck of the woods. And we thought, people would benefit from these conversations because the more that you put yourself in other people's shoes, the better things tend to go. And like any other industry, the construction industry has a lot of different players. You have architects that design a building and are the visionaries. And then you have the building material manufacturers that make the stuff that these buildings are made of. Then you have the people putting it together. And then you have the companies that kind of manage all of it. And for any building to turn out the way that it was envisioned is a miracle. Okay. So I love that about this industry, that we're creating something, we're bringing something to life that was envisioned by maybe one or two or maybe a group of people, but then it took a lot more people to kind of bring it and put it together. And it's something that's going to be there for years to come, ideally. And depending on the space you're designing, maybe you're designing a school or a museum or a memorial or something that is just going to hopefully inspire the people that use that space or that come into contact with that space.
So there's an artisan component. It's an artistic expression, no matter what part you play in it. Sounds like there's a lot of moving parts to create something.
Absolutely. 100%.
What areas are needed in this field? Is there a shortage in any of them?
Yes, there's a great big shortage in labor, in actual installation labor. So the trades, carpentry, hanging siding, installation, any type of labor required to install a material, huge shortage all over the country. It seems that, I guess the way that the tide is turning is people want to do location independent businesses or be online entrepreneurs. And so there's been a huge shortage in labor, which is leading to longer lead times in finishing projects, or some projects just are not being built fast enough. And that's leading to a housing shortage. And I don't know what part of the country your listeners are at the moment, but here in the West Coast, we have an enormous housing shortage, and they're predicting a housing shortage in 2021 because there's a shortage of materials. And taking the pandemic completely out of the picture, I mean, not even including that, there's been a huge shortage in labor.
How can this be filled, in your opinion?
Well, we have, I'd love to direct your listeners to a couple of the podcasts that we've done. I mean, most of the podcasts that we do, we interview established people in their field, so you can get an idea of what they do. And one of the questions we ask is, what do you recommend to someone who wants to get into this? And one thing that I really want to stress is you can always change your mind. So I definitely call on everything that I learned in college and what I learned in the first half of my career, but I decided to pivot. So there's always room to change your mind. That's definitely something to keep in mind before you make a decision. It may not be forever. You're just out there exploring. And if you have the advantage of youth, that's on your side as well. You can just go out and try things and see where you fit. In terms of getting into labor, the best thing to do is just to show up at a job site and say, hey, do you guys need any help? And I guarantee you, maybe 5 out of the 10 job sites you show up to, people are going to say, yes, here's a hard hat, here's a vest. Do you have steel toe boots? Let's go.
And you just kind of learn on the job. It's sort of instant apprenticeship.
It's instant apprenticeship that you get paid for.
Can you really just show up, or do you have to go through whatever company is hiring all of these laborers?
It depending on what part of the country you're at, yes, you could literally just show up. However, these days we have LinkedIn, we have Instagram, we have podcasts, and people put their information freely out there. So you can hit up, a list of people in companies or areas that you're interested in. And if you love to travel, some of these companies are nationwide installers, and they have crews that travel. Like they get in a van or in a truck, and they go 3 states over and hang out for a couple of months while they're building something, and then they go back and go somewhere else. And you make a great living. Like these installers without college degrees, they make some of them make like $300,000 a year. So there's a lot of money to be made in the construction industry.
And there's a lot of need also. So you have unlimited potential and lots of financial possibilities. Do you know the answer to this question? If you were to apprentice as a laborer under some specialty within that field, how do you go about doing that other than showing up? Can you just say, I want to be an apprentice? Do they take you on? Is there a course of study, or do you learn on the job?
It depends. If you want to become, for example, a code official, then yes, there are certain tests and things that you have to go through to get certified to do that. But to hang siding, no, you don't need any certificate. at all. You can just show up, learn how to do it. You will have people watching you, and you will have people overseeing your work and inspecting your work and so on. But yeah, you don't need any specialized degree or certificate.
But doing that work will lead to specialty. You'll become a specialist in that field, which will provide you more jobs, more money. You can then teach others. You can just launch a whole career just based on that, whatever that field is.
Yes, exactly. And and even if you don't like working with your hands, let's say you're better at math than swinging a hammer. You can do estimating. You can learn how to read AutoCAD drawings and blueprints and help people do estimating, product estimating. That's something that's in short supply as well.
Now, we have public schools here, magnet schools that have specialties, so to speak. I'm in Las Vegas. I don't know if you have this in California, but these high schools, they're called career and technical academies. And although you have your normal high school curriculum, there are also programs that you can choose. And one of them is construction. I had a daughter who was in it briefly, but yeah, they talked about what you just said, CAD and planning and designing. And so that is also a great way to start pointing in the direction in this field that is so vast that you can go in so many directions.
Yes. And there are groups too. There's societies and groups. Like if you love design and color and you have that knack for creating wonderful spaces that people feel comfortable in, then maybe you should go to design school, and you can try out joining an association for free. Students get to join for free, IIDA or AIA. Go to their website. See, they offer a lot of classes for free as well, webinars that are recorded, especially now. And since the COVID pandemic hit, there's so much more information that's free out there for educating yourself, for just doing the research to find out if this is something that you'd really like to pursue. And again, remembering that if you dive right into it and you find you don't like it, you can always change.
Now, you told us originally that you have a degree in mechanical engineering and then you made a career pivot. What did you do as a mechanical engineer, and what caused you to pivot? And then how did you pivot?
So I started out my career working in design, product design, and data analysis and tooling design to make those products. Then I switched over I worked at Motorola at a distribution center, and I got my master's while I was working there and got into systems and cycle time improvement at a distribution center. So I was doing more industrial engineering work. Then I had kids, and I completely quit and stayed home with them for 6 years almost. And when I went back, I had an opportunity. It was a networking opportunity. It was just convenient. It was 4 miles from my house. And it was at a siding manufacturer. And I was like, I know nothing about this, but the engineering degree does teach you resourcefulness. So it was fascinating. I loved it. And at that role, I evolved into a technical trainer, and I developed training materials for installers that were using the product that we were selling and that we made. Eventually, it evolved into, I became the technical director at that company. So I managed the engineering side of the industry, supporting architects and supporting basically troubleshooting installation things at the job site. I was basically the mediator between the installer and the field, saying, I can't make this dream of this architect happen. This is crazy. And so my team, we kind of were in charge of making sure, yes, this is how we can do it. How about we try it this way? How about we try it that way? So I was very much in the technical side of things for most of my career until one day I decided I wanted to be in sales because I wanted to be home. My kids were becoming teenagers, and I just wanted to be home more for my kids. So I switched over to sales, and that allowed me the flexibility to be home and be there for them. So I'm in the sales role, but I find that I have just all this extra time. So my friend Tim and I decided that we wanted to do this podcast and see if we can help the industry along, just because the construction industry in general, we tend to be behind the times from every other industry. So like we're the last people to implement email. Like most of my installer clients had no email Everything was done by fax up
Oh
until
my
like
God.
5 years ago. Yeah. So we tend to kind of lag behind. So we wanted to just kind of bring in all of these systems. And this is why, we're talking today, is because I want to attract the younger generation. Your listeners know all these things that the people that are well established in this industry don't know. So we need the young talent. We need that fresh thinking and those fresh new skills, whether they're tech or even sustainable mentality, thinking about the future of the planet, of, climate change, et cetera. So we're very much in need of whatever you guys have to offer. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite podcast episodes?
So we just had our first anniversary and we went over our favorite. One of my favorite was the one we did about B corporations, which is a certificate that corporations kind of go through. It's kind of like the USDA organic designation for a product.
Mm-hmm.
So a B corporation kind of certifies the entire company. So the auditing body, which is called B Lab, goes into the company and looks at who they hire, who they have in management positions, how they manufacture, how the manufacturing treats the environment, how they treat the communities around the company, where the company is, the factory, how they treat their employees, how they treat their clients. And all of those things go into this combined score. And then that score just kind of gives you the grade of how that company is doing in terms of a holistic with their production. So we did an episode on kind of explaining what B Corps are and sort of how that is probably the future of the world, right? Because we need companies to be responsible, and we need companies, manufacturing facilities, to make sure that the environment is a stakeholder. That's probably one of my faves. But we did one on just careers, just construction careers. Definitely check that one out. And really, in general, I would just take a look at the lineup. And so if you're interested in design, we've interviewed several architects. We interviewed the great-granddaughter of Frank Lloyd Wright. She's an interior designer. So if you're interested in construction, we've interviewed a couple of construction people. Tim Hamilton, that is actually one of our top 10, the installer interview. That was a great one. So take your pick, whatever your interest, we've probably done an episode on it.
So where are you going to go with your podcast in this upcoming year?
So in this upcoming year, we're going to do a lot more Q&A. We get a lot of questions and we get a lot of feedback and a lot of comments, and we'd like to kind of fold that into we'll probably do a once a week Q&A segment. We will do definitely more interviews, but what we're finding is, based on all of our downloads, is the most popular episodes are the ones that it's just Tim and I talking about a specific topic. So we're going to do a lot more of those as well. And we welcome feedback. I mean, that's how we know if we're being helpful, if we're providing valuable content, is by receiving feedback from listeners.
How do you and Tim decide what you're going to talk about?
A lot of it has to do with the current events. Our number one most listened to episode is we did a quarantine series. We did part 1, 2, and 3. Part 1 was like March 13th, the day that everything shut down. And then the second one, we said, okay, what are we going to do with all of this time, right? We don't know how long we're going to be shut down. This could be the most productive time of our lives. Let's make a plan. So that quarantine plan episode, where we kind of each made a commitment to what we were going to do, is the most downloaded episode. We talk about trends in the industry. That one episode, we talked about what was coming out of Italy and what was coming out of China in terms of building materials. So we talk about industry trends and where we see things going. And we focus on sustainability too, because that's a very important topic in construction.
So this industry, you could have a degree in just about anything and make it apply to this industry. You can also not have a degree and find plenty of work that will last you your whole life.
That's exactly right.
Well, how do people find your show?
We are on pretty much all the platforms. It's Build Perspectives. Our website is buildperspectives.com, and our podcast can be found there.
Who is your website for, and what can people find there?
Our website is for our listeners, and what we want is people who are interested in the industry, people who are interested in making a difference. In my experience, in the 12 years that I've been in this industry, is once you're in it, you just become very, very passionate. And if you go on LinkedIn and you look at all of the groups and all the people that are kind of interacting with each other, we're just a bunch of passionate folks who really love what we do and the people that we do it with. It's a fun one. If you need a starting point, feel free to contact me. My information is on buildperspectives.com. Tim and I are both always offering to mentor people. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Carolina Albano. So yeah, if this is your first stop and you don't know where to start, feel free to message me.
That is very generous of you, Carolina. Are there some parting words you would like to give to the audience? Any advice?
I would love to just say, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Just try things out. You do have lots of free options. And remember, you can always change your mind.
Carolina, thank you very much for all of this information. It was very valuable. I hope that it sparked something in someone listening out there.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
I hope you found that helpful. You never know what might just spark inspiration in you. You can find more about Carolina and links to what was mentioned in this podcast at howtolife.com/042. If you'd like to hear some of the other episodes in the What Can I Do With My Life series, I recommend episode 30, The No Fear Guide to Appliance Breakdowns with Chad Phillip. Chad's an instructor at Fred's Appliance Academy, and he speaks quite a bit about this industry and how to get into it. Episode 29, Lead, Don't Boss, is about the benefits of a military career. Major Scott McCarthy gives a lot of information about that. If you have a skill that is quite easy for you, Jay Klaus talks about how to make money doing what you're already good at in episode 26, Freelancing Freedom. And if you just have a great idea and want to know how to turn it into a business, check out episode 22, Start Your Online Business with Jake Ling. If you would like to hear about something specific, please feel free to send me an email at drlj@howtolife.com, and I will make a show or mominar just for you. What's a mominar? It's a short video tutorial on how to perform or deal with a basic life skill. You can check those out on my YouTube channel, How to Life. Subscribe to both the podcast and the channel to get the adulting information you may have missed in school. Let's be honest, they don't teach this stuff in school. If you're enjoying this content, please give it a 5-star rating and or a positive review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Thank you all for the kind comments and encouragement. I really appreciate your support. That's it for today. I look forward to meeting with you all again next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week, love your tribe, inspire someone, go out of your way to spread a little kindness. But most of all, be kind to and love yourself. You are right where you're supposed to be. You got this.